with the Eagles discussion here. So let's dive into this for a minute. Were you surprised, or from what you're hearing, you kind of think maybe this was a possibility that Myles Garrett steps away? Because he hadn't really shown a ton. In his fairness, it was only a couple of weeks, and you're on mute. But in fairness, it was only a couple of weeks for him. But were you surprised?
Yes, but then it was eye-opening the last game. He didn't get into the game until late in the third quarter. And we're all wondering what the heck's going on here, because his first day of training camp, he was getting reps with the ones.
Right.
So they were obviously preparing him for something. And then all of a sudden, this last game, we're like, wait a minute, he's coming in the game late in the third quarter. Well, come to find out, he's ever since the knock on him coming out of college for as talented was, he has this degenerative knee issue.
Yes.
And he got through 7 NFL seasons. And so I was told recently that he could barely walk or run. So I'm sure he came to the realization that this is the end of the road for me. Now, it wasn't that long ago when he came out and when he got here, he told people he's sitting at home, playing Call of Duty, wondering if he should go to trade school for plumbing or electrician. And all of a sudden he gets a call and he's with the defending NFC champions. So he thought he would give it one last shot. So he got out there, and come to find out the knee is not as stable as he had hoped it would be.
Yeah.
And it just got to the point where he knew it was time. Now, he made decent money in his career. Sure. His rookie contract, he slipped in. He was a second-round pick. So his rookie contract, he made a little over $6 million with about $3.5 million of that guaranteed. And then he signs a big contract, a 4-year, $50-something million contract, $33 million guaranteed. So that was his one big contract. So even with that, now that's not big money like some of these guys make at that position, but it's enough to get you through life and help you transition to life. Even if you got half of that, you still got like 15 million, 20 million. Okay. So it got to the point where the knee just wasn't holding up for him.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude was barely walking off practice fields and out of a game situation. So at 28 years of old, he decided it's time to call it a career. And that's understandable. When you can't do it, you can't do it. Some guys can push themselves through a 10, 12, 15-year career. He got 7. And the knee was not getting any better. The older he gets, the knee's not getting any better, which explains why he only spent 1 year in Pittsburgh, and couldn't get through more than 2 weeks of a training camp here. For all his physical attributes, that one thing that you need, your legs, failed him. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's probably looking at it like this. I probably get 7 years when I didn't have any business getting any time out of this league.
Yep.
And I took it as far as I could take it. No regrets. My body's just not willing. Maybe the mind and the spirit are willing, but my body's not. So I can live with that. I'm guessing that's probably the way he looked at it. And to his credit, he didn't try and fake his way onto a roster so he could get a paycheck. No. And, he just said, look, it's my time and I'm going to move on, man. So I give the guy props for that.
So now the Eagles are in an interesting situation. They've lost some key special teams players for the year. They lost a proven NFL linebacker they thought was going to add some great depth.
Right.
So they've got to scramble a little bit and come up with some pieces. But again, you look at the linebacking situation out there, and Rob, the linebacking situation is not, Anthony Barr is probably the best of the lot that's out there. He's 31 years old, but yet he's still out there. Why? He went down to New Orleans, didn't sign in New Orleans. Why?
Right.
And from what I'm told, from people in Minnesota, Anthony Barr's better days are behind him. There's a year he only spent, for as tenacious as that Dallas rush was, Anthony Barr just didn't fit that bill.
Right.
His better days are behind him. So, it's funny. I was looking at some different names on the free agent list, and you've got guys still in their prime. Rashad Evans, who played with Atlanta last year, 28 years old. J-Ron Brown, who was with the Ravens? The Raiders. He was with the Raiders last year, 28 years old. John Bostic was with Washington. He's 32. Nate Gary. You want Nate Gary back here? No. He was with Washington. He's 28.
No.
Anthony Barr, 31, 6'4", 248. Fits the bill of these big linebackers, but he's still out there.
Yeah.
So now the Eagles they're going to have to find another linebacker. Where are you going to get them from? Now, here's what's going to happen. Yeah. They're probably going to wait and see who gets cut. There's going to be a lot of good players get cut from other teams just because of a numbers game. So maybe they're waiting on that to see what happens. But
that or a team that's got depth at linebacker that tries to hide somebody on the practice squad, maybe that's an option too.
Yeah, but see, it's like it's like those other positions, the quarterback position. It's slim pickings right now.
Yeah, I know.
And the fact that the league is even talking about adding maybe 4 more teams down the road in Europe.
Stop. Yeah.
You don't have enough quarterbacks. How are you going to get enough players that are qualified to play in the NFL?
You can't. I think about quarterbacks.
63-man. That's 4 additional 63-man rosters.
Yeah, no, that would be an epic mistake. It really would. It would be a
oh my goodness.
No, but you're right. I mean, what's interesting, what started to happen here with what they have in place. The Kobe Dean's going to be the starting middle linebacker. But what's happening at the will spot, it looks like it's Zach Cunningham. Zach Cunningham has emerged, Derek, and it looks like Morrow's on the back burner. And as you've pointed out many times on the show, he doesn't have guaranteed money.
No.
He could be bye-bye. Christian Ellis is really making some noise too here. I mean,
Christian Ellis had a great game, great tackles, blew up a screenplay. He is a big dude, 6'4", 235, you know, and Cunningham's a big boy also, you know. So one of those two are going to win it. You know, I've said since June, I didn't think that position was going to be Morrow's. And sure enough, you got these other 2 guys emerging all of a sudden. You're to the point now, I don't know if they would cut Morrow, but since he doesn't have guaranteed money, that's a feasible option. And maybe bring in a younger linebacker who gets cut from somewhere else. But I do believe it's neck and neck right now between Cunningham and Ellis right now.
Yeah, I mean, so that's an interesting development, you know, and with the Kobe, frankly, we haven't seen a ton. I know he made the play on Thursday with the strip, but he was struggling a little bit before that. But look, he's going to be your starting middle linebacker. I mean, that's just the way it is. The other thing, you know, and I know this isn't the first thing that jumps to mind because, you know, we're looking at linebacker and the quarterback spot and all that other stuff, but they've lost 2 core special teams dudes already. Sean Bradley, Achilles, Zach McPherson, Achilles, to a unit that really can't afford to be losing bodies. This is something to keep your eye on as we go forward here.
The scary thing is for a special teams that was already poor, you lost 2 key members of your special teams. What are you going to do to fix that problem? You know, on the special teams, it's already iffy. That's a big blow. You know, on the surface, people say, oh, they're just backups. Yeah, but you know what? They were 2 of the better special teams player. Considering the special teams is nothing to write home about as it is, when you lose two guys that are considered across the board, whether it's coverage team, return team, you know, punt team, you know, kickoff block team, or whatever the case may be, that hurts. That hurts big time. You know.
Yeah, they're big ones.
And Mr. Taz brought up your.
All right, let's deal with it. I tried to put it off, Derek. I put it off for 44 minutes. I can no longer hide from it. So the other news, thank you, Mr. Taz. The other news from the weekend was Tyler Zentner, the quote unquote punting competition. And I don't usually use the air quotes, but I'm using it this time because clearly he wasn't any kind of competition. There isn't anybody else we could have brought in here. All right. So he got cut. So now there's no one competing with Sippos right now. I'm telling you, this is a mistake. This is a mistake.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you back in June?
You told me from the jump this wasn't a competition.
Now I will add this caveat. Even though it looks like Sippos is their punter right now, the punter. I just listen to what I'm telling you now.
Okay.
And I'm not going to tell you anymore because I want to see how it plays out. The punter for the 2023 season might not be on their roster right now.
Okay, from your lips to the football god's ears. Okay. Can I all right, let's hope. I hope so. I really, truly, sincerely, all jokes aside, this dude's not good enough. And you're going to be in closer games where it's going to be more important. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So that one was just a gut punch. All right. Greedy Williams got released, Derek. He was a guy who you thought at least could make this team as a depth, defensive back and special teamer, but he's gone. They apparently didn't like anything they saw from him.
What happened to the dude that came out of LSU, man? Because he started 21 games for the Browns, and then they fell out of love with him. The Eagles barely had him in 3 weeks of training camp.
Yeah.
He's
fallen off, man.
His
play
off.
is falling off.
I thought he would be a great backup for that slot position, and obviously not, based on what's happened now. I don't know what happened to this guy, dude. He can cover. He's got speed. But for some reason, Sean Desai and Matt Patricia just didn't like what they saw from him. And you can tell he's had a quiet camp, Rob. Think about it. You don't hear his name in camp. You didn't hear him making any plays in preseason games. For whatever the reason, he's out now. So think about this. Think about the key components you're losing here now. You've lost 2 special teamers. You've had a prominent linebacker retire. You cut a highly coveted cornerback. Where are they going from here, Rob?
It's a good question. In terms of depth, I know they really like Job's had a really good camp, and they're really impressed with Job. I could tell you that. And they like where he's at, and they feel like the leap from last year to this year for him has been enormous. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about these spots. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, well, let's jump over to the other thing here. Let's go safety for a minute. Terrell Edmunds, we kind of assumed that was going to be the guy next to Blankenship, the sort of veteran to balance this thing out, but not the case, necessarily here. He hasn't been great. And I'll tell you the guy that they like a lot, Derek, to keep your eye on here, who I don't know how much time we've given him thus far, but I know they like Justin Evans a lot too, and he's making some noise.
Yeah. That's a interesting one.
He was a 2017 second-round pick.
Yeah.
By Tampa.
I don't know. You putting him back there with Blankenship, that's a learning curve and a half. Not to say that he can't achieve it. He has had an outstanding camp. He looked pretty good in preseason games, but I never thought it would be Justin Evans. Although the whole secondary had an off game last week, the whole secondary was off.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know about that combination, because look at the state of your linebacking situation and your safeties if you go that route. That's a problem in the middle of the field for teams that like to pass.
Yeah.
And there's a whole slew of teams on this roster that like to pass. So if that's the case, I don't know. That's a tricky one, Rob.
I know it is tricky. I mean, look, the good news is, and probably burying the lead here, but the positive is Blankenship's had a very good camp. He's played well. Actually, the practices, the joint practices as well. He's looked good. So that's a positive. And I think initially we weren't even sure if he was going to be one of the starters, but it feels like to me, you especially see it, Derek, because he doesn't dress for these preseason games, right? I mean, he's that guy, I think. But yeah, look, we went into this with question marks at safety and linebacker, and we still have question marks at safety and linebacker.
Well, I hate to say this,
as we sit here,
but it's not a given that Terrell Edmunds is going to be one of your starting safeties.
I agree with
you. It's not a given.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of discussion about what they want to do with that slot opposite Reed Blankenship.
Yeah.
Now, if that's the case, if that's what they're going to do, it's going to be interesting to see how they address this issue. Just like Greedy Williams, Terrell Edmunds has had a quiet camp, hasn't done much in preseason games. He hasn't given this organization a sense of assurance that he's the guy to assume that role. And what did I tell you when they signed him, Rob? Is people were really excited about him. I said, if Mike Tomlin lets you go and you're in the prime of your career, I want to know why. You don't just let a guy,
especially a guy who knows the system as well as he knows it too. Yeah.
You don't just let a guy 6 years experience go. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason. There's a reason that Pittsburgh let him go. And maybe we're starting to see it. But if that is the case, and you're talking about Justin Evans, again, I put it in the category of this team may wait until cutdowns to see what's out there to bring somebody in. Now, I'm not saying whoever they decided to bring in a couple of weeks before that first game would start right away, but it's going to be somebody who's going to push for a starting job if Edmunds doesn't get up to speed.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Look, it is definitely up in the air. That's for sure. All right, let me throw this at you. I know he's downplayed it, and he's such a likable guy. He's sort of like, you know, is a disarming kind of guy. He's funny, lovable, you know, likable guy. Appreciate the welcome back, Elaine. Thank you. But you worried at all about the Nolan Smith shoulder? I'm a little worried about that. They shut him down during the game. He didn't practice, you know, yesterday, etc. It's the same shoulder he had the surgery on. And then and maybe this is just him being sort of goofy, which he is, and I mean that in a good way. But he says, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, huh? 22-year-old that sometimes it doesn't work, the shoulder?
I would tell you this, Rob, when it comes to joints, like shoulder joints, finger joints, and I've had a finger dislocated, the same little pinky dislocated 3 times in my lifetime. The first time it happened was in a pickup basketball game. And to this day, I still can't straighten it out. When I was playing, but when it popped out, you pull it, pop it back in, you keep going. You either tape it up to this finger or you just flex it a little bit and keep going. With the shoulder, a little different. If you've had this dislocated, if you had surgery on it, if it pops in and out of place, you can try a shoulder harness. You can try that, see if that works. But maybe he said it tongue in cheek. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's something to keep an eye on because he's a smaller guy now. He's got lightning speed. He can shed a block and get lateral in a hurry. I don't know how stout he's going to be against the run, but he can get off a block and get lateral and force a running play, outside running play, and push it outside even further. But when you've got to engage guys 6'5", 6'6", or a guard pulling at you coming full bore, at some point somebody's going to get you and plant you on that shoulder. And I don't know if he was joking or not, but you don't just put that out there, especially one you've had surgery on.
Yeah, it was weird. And again, I think he's a jokey kind of guy, and he's a fun-loving guy. I don't know exactly. I don't want to read too much into it, but when I heard it, I'm like, I don't really love that. But I will tell you, when he's been out there, you know he's on the field. That dude makes his presence felt, whether it's getting after the quarterback or whatever. Man, what's not to like about Nolan Smith? That guy
not only does he have that quick burst, man, but he's already got mastered that up and under move. You watch him get low and get under those big tackles, man. He's a heat-seeking missile, and obviously he's learning well from Hassan Reddick.
Check it out, Fitness Rebel. The shoulder tendonitis. It's been months. Finally better. Couldn't lift it to start. I hope the shoulder isn't serious. Yeah, I'm with you, Fitness Rebel, and he's going to be dealing with behemoths trying to move 300-pound cats, around. With that shoulder. So it's a little concerning for sure. But you're right, Derek. What you see from him is burst. He's got an array of moves. He's got like veteran sort of moves out there on the end.
Yes.
And he's strong. I know he's not the biggest dude, but he is strong for his size.
Yes. And he's a heat-seeking missile, and that's what they need against some of these quarterbacks they're going to face. Especially when Hassan needs a break every now and then, or who knows, both of them could be on the field at the same time, depending on what the situation may be. I love everything about his game so far. Everything we've seen, we've heard nothing but glowing accolades about him in training camp. And we've seen it in 2 preseason games now. How much will he play this last game remains to be seen, if any. Do we really need to see more of him in another preseason game when you're going to be playing a bunch of guys? Now, I'm assuming the Colts are going to put Anthony Richardson out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to see some of your better guys, and I'm not saying like the Fletcher Coxes and those guys.
Right.
But you're going to see the Jordan Davises, the Nolan Smith, the Jalen Carters try to get after this guy as well.
Yep.
But I'd get them in and get them out of there in a hurry. When you look at the volume of injuries that have happened in these controlled practice sessions with teams and these preseason games, especially these head and neck injuries, I'm getting them out of there ASAP. I'm not playing around with them.
Yeah, well, we're going to dive into some of that because the hard trend, this was trending towards the joint practices for a while. Now some coaches are pushing back because they're too physical. I mean, the Eagles the Eagles-Browns went at it.
Yeah, they did.
Last week.
Dude, if you look across the board, I can't tell you how many videos popped up on social media of all these dual practice sessions where dudes are wailing on each other. And I mean, both teams coming down to the center of the field, wailing on each other, and how many players have been kicked out of practices because of it.
Exactly. So, we'll see if we don't trend back to preseason games at this point, but who knows, man? It just feels like some things get hot for a minute, and then it's like we get right back to where we are. I don't know. I will tell you what, one thing that has surprised me generally, just to jump off the Eagles and just talk NFL for a second, the amount of starters and the amount of time they've played in these preseason games has surprised me. It's the opposite of the Eagles approach. But
well, Andy Reid, I'm not surprised. Andy Reid has done this forever. He plays the starters, and there's a possibility they'll play a little bit in this last game.
Yep.
And these are defending Super Bowl champions you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can see Green Bay playing, Jordan Love, getting him ready. He's looked good in 2 preseason games.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers is going to play in the final preseason. You need to get that timing down.
Yep.
I thought they would play Aaron Rodgers the second game just against him. They're waiting until the final preseason game. So if the Jets are going to play their regulars, the Giants are Rob. That Jets, now you never hear me say this, but that Jets-Giants preseason game, at least for a quarter, could be must-see TV because
I agree with you. Yeah.
You're talking about the Jets have always been the little brother to the Giants. Even as bad or as mediocre as the Giants have been, the Giants always get more pub than the Jets. Now, from the spring to the summer through training camp, the Jets are getting way more pub than the Giants. So there's a statement here that needs to be made about who's who. There's a statement. I guarantee you, stuff could jump out real quick in this game.
Yeah, oh yeah, that one's going to be one that you want to watch. You want to at least keep an eye on if you're a football fan. Dare I say, too, Derek, while we're on this subject of the Giants and the Jets in particular, the MILF Hunters look pretty decent.
Yes, he has.
He made a play, and I know it was a play with his legs, and whatever, but like there's something there with this guy. If he get his head screwed on straight, there might be something at some point. Let him sit behind Rodgers for about 2-3 years and then see.
Well, if you watch Hard Knocks, you see Aaron Rodgers on those videos giving him a lot of tutelage in the classroom, on the sideline, and maybe that's what Zach Wilson needs. A veteran quarterback who can help mentor him and show him things that he hasn't been able to see from quarterbacks he's been surrounded by before Aaron Rodgers' arrival. And like you're right, you're starting to see it. You've seen it again. It's preseason games, but you're seeing a different Zach Wilson in these games with a better command, more accuracy, being smart, knowing when to take off and run, so on and so forth. So who knows? Maybe he will emerge in 2 to 3 years down the road to be the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers and shut up all the people, especially the media, who have made so many jokes about him as being a first-round draft pick in the National Football League.
Yeah, like it was a roundabout way, but it may be the best thing for him just to sit here and sort of just like regroup for a little while. And because Rodgers has taken to the role of wanting to mentor. I mean, I honestly think it's the best thing that could have happened to Zach Wilson, what's happening to him.
I do too.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more.
All right, we'll get a timeout. We gave you an hour out of the shoot on a Monday. Boom. That's what we get.
That's how we roll. Welcome back, Robbie E.
That's exactly right. You know what? We keep going with the Eagles because there's a lot of stuff we haven't even gotten to with the Bird. There could be, we'll talk about it when we get back, maybe a key injury for the Patriots for week 1. That could be something. So it could help the Eagles. I don't like to see anybody get hurt, but it could help the Eagles. So we'll get into that. Bunch of other stuff that we will delve into bird-wise. 1:30, we'll do some Phillies. 2 o'clock, our NFL segment. We got some birthdays, and we got some good movies today, as we always do. So a lot to dive into. Happy to be back with you guys hanging out. He's Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. Yes, because knowing who to trust with your finances, it's not easy, okay? And there can be a lot of things that are confusing, but you want to make sure you get this one right because it is critical, right? And it took me a while to find the right person. I have, and I want you to as well. Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group can help you with any number of things, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business and you need help with your employee benefits and getting them off the ground. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. I know I personally entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You could also email him, Murray, MURRAY, .jim@principal.com. That's murray.jim@principal.com.